The space station was always full of noise, machines humming, lights blinking, people moving fast from one place to another. But there was one place where no one wanted to go. A cold white room at the end of a long metal hallway. Inside that room sat a small alien girl. Alone, quiet, and feared by everyone. No one knew her real name. Some called her Subject Zero, others called her the Untouchable, but most people just stayed away from her completely. The story was simple and terrifying. Anyone who tried to touch her would scream in pain and fall to the ground, as if an invisible force pushed them away. Some said it felt like fire running through their body. Others said it felt like their mind was breaking apart. Doctors tried to study her, soldiers tried to control her. Scientists tried to understand her, but all failed. Now the girl just sat in the center of the room, her knees close to her chest, her glowing eyes watching everything in silence. She never attacked anyone, never shouted, never moved unless someone came too close. That was the strange part. She did not act like a monster. She acted like a scared child one day. A human transport ship arrived at the station, bringing new soldiers, supplies, and one man who did not yet know about the girl. His name was Ethan Cole, a calm and experienced soldier, known for following orders and staying cool under pressure. As he walked through the station for the first time, he noticed something strange. People were nervous, not because of war, not because of danger outside, but because of something inside the station. "Stay away from Section 7, one guard warned him quietly. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Why?" The guard hesitated, then said, "Just trust me, you don't want to see what's in there." But Ethan was not the kind of man who ignored warnings. He was the kind who wanted to understand them. Later that day, he stood in front of a thick glass wall. Looking into the room everyone feared. And there she was, the alien girl. She looked small, fragile even, with pale skin that shimmered softly under the lights, and eyes that glowed like distant stars. She did not look dangerous, she looked alone. A scientist standing nearby spoke in a low voice. "She has injured 12 people. No one can touch her, no one can go near her. Her body creates some kind of energy field." Ethan kept watching. "Has she attacked anyone first?" The scientist paused. "No. But that does not matter." Ethan did not answer, because to him, it did matter, very much. The girl slowly turned her head and looked directly at him through the glass. For a moment, everything felt quiet, like the rest of the station disappeared. Ethan felt something strange, not fear, not danger, but something deeper, sadness. "She is just a child," he said softly. The scientist shook his head. "She is not human," Ethan replied. "She is still a child," later, against orders. Ethan walked down the hallway toward her room. Alarms were not active yet, but cameras followed his every step. A voice came through the speakers, "Soldier, stop immediately." But Ethan did not stop. He stood in front of the sealed door, took a slow breath, and pressed the open button. Inside the control room, people began to panic. "What is he doing? Stop him. He will get hurt." The door slowly opened with a sharp metallic sound. Ethan stepped inside. The air felt different, heavy, like pressure pushing against his skin. The girl did not move at first. She just watched him, carefully, slowly. Ethan took one step forward, then another. Warning lights started flashing, energy levels rising. Someone shouted from the control room, "Get him out of there." But Ethan kept moving. Calm, steady, his eyes never leaving the girl. She suddenly stood up, her small hands shaking slightly. The air around her began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from the ground. Everyone outside held their breath. This was the moment. The moment where everything always went wrong. Ethan stopped just a few steps away from her. He did not reach out, not yet. He spoke softly instead. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl tilted her head slightly, as if trying to understand his words. Then slowly, very slowly, she raised her hand toward him. The energy in the room spiked, alarms screaming louder than ever. "Move back," the commander shouted through the speakers. But Ethan did not move. For a second, time felt frozen. Then he reached out his hand too. Their fingers touched. And suddenly, everything went silent. No pain, no force, no explosion of energy. Just silence. Outside the room, people stared in shock. Unable to speak, inside the room, the girl looked at Ethan with wide eyes, not fear, but something new. Something no one had ever seen before. Trust. For a long moment, no one moved, no one spoke, and no one even breathed properly. The alarms were still flashing, but the sound had stopped, as if the system itself did not understand what was happening. Inside the white room, Ethan and the alien girl were still standing close, their hands touching, calm and still. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was breaking. For the first time since the girl arrived on the station, there was no pain, no force, no danger, only silence. Outside the glass, the control team stared in complete shock. "That's not possible," one scientist whispered. "It should have reacted," another said, shaking his head. But it did not react. Because something had changed. Ethan slowly pulled his hand back. Careful not to scare her, the girl did not attack, did not move away. Instead, she took a small step closer to him. That alone made the people outside panic again. "Energy levels?" the commander asked quickly. A technician checked the screen, confused. "Stable." Completely stable. That word spread through the room like a quiet storm. Stable. It had never been stable before. Ethan looked down at the girl, his voice soft and steady. "You're okay," he said. The girl blinked slowly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. Safe, calm, gentle. Things she had not felt in a very long time. Slowly, she lifted her hand again. But this time there was no shaking, no fear. She placed her small hand on Ethan's arm. Again, nothing happened. No energy burst, no pain, just contact. Simple and quiet, inside the control room. The tension broke into noise. "We need to isolate them. Run new scans. This changes everything." The commander stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Seal the room. No one goes in or out." Heavy doors locked into place with a loud metallic sound. Ethan heard it, but he did not react. His focus was still on the girl. "You've been alone here, haven't you?" he said quietly. The girl tilted her head again, as if trying to understand. Her grip on his arm became just a little tighter. Not enough to hurt, just enough to hold. Ethan noticed something important. She was not trying to harm him. She was trying to stay close, like a child afraid of being left behind outside. The scientists were already making plans. "If he is immune, we can begin direct testing. We can finally unlock her ability." Their voices were full of excitement, not care. The commander watched silently for a moment, then said, "Prepare the transfer team. We're moving the girl to Lab Sector 9. One of the guards hesitated. "Sir, with the human inside?" The commander's face remained cold. "Yes, he goes with her. He is now part of the experiment." Inside the room, Ethan had no idea what they were planning. But the girl suddenly reacted. Her eyes widened, and the calm air around her began to shift again. A soft wave of energy moved through the room. Not violent, but warning. Ethan felt it, like a cold wind passing through his body. He looked at her carefully. "Hey, it's okay," but it was not okay. She could feel something coming, something bad. Her hand tightened around his sleeve. Her breathing became faster, and for the first time, she made a sound, a soft broken whisper. "No." Ethan froze for a second, surprised. "You can speak," he said gently. She shook her head quickly, stepping closer to him. "No, go." Her words were not clear, but the meaning was strong. She was afraid for him. Not for herself, for him. Outside, the transfer team was already moving into position. Weapons ready, tools prepared. The door controls began to unlock. "Open the room," the commander ordered, the moment the lock clicked. The girl's energy spiked again, stronger than before. Warning lights turned red instantly. "Energy rising fast," a technician shouted. Inside, the air started to shake. Small objects began to vibrate and lift slightly from the ground. Ethan stepped forward quickly, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. "Look at me," he said firmly but softly. The girl's glowing eyes locked onto his. "You're safe." "I'm right here." The energy around them flickered wildly, like a storm trying to form, but then, slowly, very slowly, it began to calm. The floating objects dropped back to the floor. The shaking stopped. The lights returned to normal outside. Silence filled the control room again. One scientist spoke in disbelief. "He's not just immune. He's stabilizing her." The commander's expression darkened. "That means we control both of them now," he said coldly. Inside the room, Ethan had no idea how true those words were. The girl was still holding on to him, refusing to let go, and deep down, he was starting to realize something dangerous. He was no longer just a soldier on a mission. He was the only thing standing between that child and everyone else. The station did not feel the same anymore. Something had changed, and everyone could feel it. The girl was no longer just a dangerous subject locked in a room. Now she was the center of attention. And Ethan was the reason why, after the incident. They were both moved to a new containment area. Bigger, quieter, and filled with observation cameras. But this time, there were no chains. No shock barriers, no heavy guards standing inside. Only glass walls, silent machines, and people watching from a distance. Because now they were not just studying the girl, they were studying the connection. Ethan sat on a simple chair in the middle of the room, while the girl stayed close to him, never more than a few steps away. Every time he moved, her eyes followed. Every time someone outside raised their voice, she shifted closer to him, like he was the only safe place in her world. "Begin emotional response test," a voice said through the speakers. Ethan looked up, already annoyed. "You're treating her like a machine." No one answered him. Instead, a sudden loud noise blasted inside the room. Sharp and unexpected. The girl flinched instantly, her body shaking. A wave of energy burst out from her, strong enough to crack the floor beneath them. Warning lights flashed red again. Energy spike detected. Ethan quickly stood and moved closer to her, raising his hands slowly. Hey, it's okay," he said calmly. The girl's breathing was fast, her glowing eyes flickering. The energy around her twisted like a storm about to explode. But then Ethan stepped right in front of her, blocking her view of everything else. "Look at me," he said softly. She did, and slowly the storm began to fade. The energy pulled back, the air settled, and the cracks stopped spreading inside the control room. The scientists watched carefully. "Record everything," one of them said. "This confirms it," another replied. "Her power is linked to emotional stress, and he reduces it." They were finally starting to understand, but not in the way Ethan wanted. Later, when the test stopped, the room became quiet again. Ethan sat down, and after a second, the girl sat beside him. Closer than before, she looked at him. Her expression still unsure, but no longer filled with fear. "Why are they doing this to you?" Ethan asked quietly. She did not answer at first. Her eyes moved slowly toward the glass walls, where shadows of people could be seen watching, then back to him. "Hurt," she whispered softly. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Yeah, I see that," he said. There was a pause. Then he tried something different. Something simple. "My name is Ethan," he said. Placing his hand lightly on his chest, she watched carefully. "Ethan, he repeated slowly. She blinked, then softly tried to copy him. Then. It was not perfect, but it was clear enough. A small step, but a powerful one. Ethan gave a small smile. That's right. Then he pointed gently toward her. What about you? The girl went quiet again. Her face changed slightly, something like confusion. Or maybe pain. She shook her head slowly. No, name. Those two words hit harder than anything else. No name, no identity, just a subject, just an experiment. Ethan looked down for a moment, thinking, then back at her. Then we'll give you one, he said. Her glowing eyes focused on him again. Name, he nodded. Yeah. A name. He paused for a second, then said softly, Luma. The girl repeated it slowly, as if testing the sound. Ma. For the first time, there was something new in her expression. Not fear, not confusion, something softer. Something warm, outside. The scientists were not interested in names or feelings. They were focused on data. We've completed the deep scan, one of them said, pulling up a complex display. The room went quiet as the results appeared. This is not possible. The commander stepped closer. Explain. The scientist swallowed nervously. Her body is not generating energy, he said slowly. It's receiving it. Receiving? Yes. From an external source. The commander's eyes narrowed. From where? The scientist zoomed in on the data, highlighting a strange pattern. It looks like emotional resonance. Her species doesn't create power, another scientist added. They connect to it. They channel it. And right now. He paused, looking directly at the readings connected to Ethan. He's part of that connection. Silence filled the control room again. That means, the commander said slowly, he's not just calming her, he's linked to her, inside the room. Ethan had no idea what they had just discovered. But he could feel something changing. Luma moved closer to him again, resting her head lightly against his arm. Her glowing eyes slowly dimming into a soft, peaceful light. For the first time since she arrived on the station, she was not just surviving, she was resting, and Ethan was becoming something far more important than just a soldier. He was becoming her anchor. The warning came without sound at first. Just a flicker on the station screens, a small signal that did not match anything in the system. Then everything changed. Alarms exploded across every level of the station. Louder than before, sharper, urgent. Red lights covered the halls. Doors began to lock. And soldiers rushed to their positions, inside the observation room. Ethan looked up instantly, his instincts taking over. That's not a test, he said. Standing quickly, Luma reacted even faster. Her body stiffened, her glowing eyes turning brighter than ever. She grabbed Ethan's arm tightly, not in fear alone, but in recognition. Like she knew exactly what was coming, outside. The commander's voice echoed through the station. All units prepare for external contact. Unknown fleet approaching fast. The main screen in the control room lit up, showing dark shapes appearing from deep spaceships, but not like any human design. They were long, sharp, almost alive in the way they moved. Black surfaces that seemed to absorb light, and at their center, a strange glowing core, pulsing slowly. What are those? A young officer whispered. No one answered at first, but then one of the senior scientists spoke. His voice low and tense. They found her. The commander turned sharply. Explain, the scientist swallowed. Those ships. They match the energy pattern we detected in the girl. They are not here by accident. They came for her, inside the room. Luma began to shake. Her breathing became uneven. Her grip on Ethan tightening more and more. No, no. She whispered again. Ethan knelt in front of her, trying to keep his voice calm. Hey, look at me, he said gently. But her eyes were not focused on him anymore. They were fixed somewhere far away, as if she could see the ships even without a screen. They hurt you, didn't they? Ethan said quietly. Luma's reaction was instant. Her entire body flinched, and a pulse of energy pushed outward from her. The glass walls cracked slightly, lights flickered. The station itself seemed to tremble for a second. Outside, technicians shouted. Energy surge detected inside containment. At the same time, the fleet is powering weapons. The commander's face turned cold. Open a channel, he ordered. A moment later, the main screen shifted, and a strange figure appeared, tall, thin, its form not fully clear, like it was made of shifting shadows and light. Its voice came through distorted but strong. You have something that belongs to us. The room fell silent. The commander stepped forward. This is a human station. You have no authority here. The figure did not react. Instead, it tilted its head slightly. The child, it said slowly. She is not yours to keep. Inside the containment room, Luma suddenly dropped to her knees. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Luma, he said urgently. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear. They come, she whispered. Ethan looked toward the glass, anger rising inside him. Outside, the conversation continued. What is she to you? The commander demanded. The alien figure answered without emotion. She is a living core, a vessel of energy, a tool. Those words hit harder than any weapon. Inside the room, Luma shook her head weakly. No, no. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's not a tool, he muttered. Back in the control room, the commander crossed his arms. And if we refuse, he asked. The alien figure paused for just a second, then said one simple thing. Then you will be removed. At that exact moment, the station shook violently. Explosions echoed in the distance. Shields hit, someone shouted. They've started firing. The entire station moved into chaos. Inside the containment room, the energy around Luma began to rise again, stronger than ever before. The air twisted, pulling at everything. Small objects lifted into the air. Spinning slowly, her fear was growing too fast. And this time, it was different, stronger, deeper, more dangerous. Ethan grabbed her shoulders carefully, forcing her to look at him. Luma, listen to me, he said firmly. You're not alone. But the energy kept rising. Cracks spread across the walls. The floor trembled under their feet. Outside, panic spread through the control room. If she releases that energy now, it could destroy the entire sector. We have to shut it down. The commander made a fast decision. Prepare to neutralize the subject. A soldier hesitated. Sir. The human is still inside. The commander's voice turned cold again. That is acceptable. Inside the room, Ethan had no idea what order had just been given, but something in Luma's eyes changed. Not just fear anymore, but pain and something else. Something like a memory trying to break free. She looked at Ethan, her voice weak but clear. Run. Ethan shook his head immediately. Not happening, he said. The energy around them surged again, stronger than anything before, and this time, it was not just reacting, it was building, like something inside her was about to awaken. The station was shaking, lights flickering, alarms screaming from every direction. But inside the containment room, everything felt focused on one thing, Luma. Her energy was no longer just reacting, it was growing, building like a storm that had been waiting for too long. Ethan could feel it in the air, heavy and powerful, pressing against his chest with every breath. But he did not step back, he stayed right in front of her. Luma, stay with me, he said firmly. Her glowing eyes flickered wildly, like she was fighting something inside her own mind. They take, she whispered. Ethan leaned closer, trying to understand. Who took you? Her body trembled, and suddenly something changed. The energy around her did not explode outward this time. Instead, it pulled inward, sharp and focused. And then images appeared, not on a screen, not from a machine, but directly in the air around them. Faint, glowing shapes like memories made of light. Ethan froze, watching carefully. He was not just seeing something. He was feeling it. Fear, pain, confusion. All of it coming from her. The first image became clear. A dark place, cold and empty, filled with other small figures like Luma. Children, alien children, each one surrounded by machines. Each one glowing with unstable energy. They were all like you, Ethan whispered. Luma's eyes filled with tears, small glowing drops that faded before touching the ground. Hurt, always hurt. The images shifted again, faster now. Strange beings moving around them, tall and shadow-like. The same ones from the ships outside. They were not caring for the children. They were controlling them, forcing their power to grow. Using pain, fear, isolation, turning them into something else. Weapons. Ethan clenched his fists, anger rising in his chest. They did this to you, he said quietly. Luma nodded weakly. Make strong. Another image flashed. One of the children lost control. The energy burst out violently, destroying everything around it. The other children were not saved. They were just replaced. Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. They didn't care if you survived, he said. Luma shook her head slowly. No, only power. The images slowed, then focused on one final moment. Luma, smaller than now, weaker running. Alarms, chaos, flashing lights. She was escaping, not fighting, not attacking. Just trying to get away, she ran, Ethan realized. She escaped them. Luma looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. Hide, here. Her eyes moved slightly toward the station walls. Safe, thought safe. Ethan closed his eyes for a second. Understanding everything now, she was not abandoned. She was running for her life, and she ended up here, with humans. But instead of safety, she found more fear. More tests, more isolation. Not as cruel, but still wrong. He opened his eyes again. Determination clear in his face. You are safe now, he said firmly. I'm not letting them take you back. Outside the room. The control team was also watching the strange energy display. What is that? One scientist asked in shock. Those are not random energy bursts, another said. It's memory projection. She's showing us her past. The commander watched silently. His expression unreadable. So she is not just a power source, he said slowly. She is proof. Proof of what they are doing. The station shook again as another hit the shields. Sir, defenses are failing, a soldier reported. They won't stop. The commander looked back at the screen. At the images of suffering children. Then toward the containment room. Where Ethan stood protecting Luma, for the first time. There was hesitation in his voice. If we give her to them. No one answered, because now they all knew the truth. Inside the room, Luma's energy began to calm slightly. The images slowly fading. Her breathing was still weak, but more steady. Ethan gently placed a hand on her head, careful and slow. You're not going back there, he said softly. Luma looked at him, searching his face. Stay. Ethan nodded without hesitation. Yeah, you stay. For a moment, everything felt still again. Even with the battle outside, even with danger closing in. That small promise meant everything. But outside, the enemy ships were not waiting. Their weapons were charging again. Brighter, stronger, inside the control room. A new signal suddenly appeared on the main screen. Different from the others, stronger, clearer, and this time. It was not a warning, it was a command. The alien figure appeared again, its voice colder than before. Final request, it said, return the living core. Or we take her by force, inside the containment room. Luma felt it instantly, her body tensed again. Her energy starting to rise once more, but this time, something was different. She was not just afraid anymore, she was ready to resist, and Ethan was standing right beside her, ready to fight for her, no matter what came next. The station could not take much more. Explosions echoed through the metal halls. Distant but getting closer, the lights flickered again and again, like the station itself was struggling to stay alive. Inside the containment room, the air felt heavy, charged with energy. But this time, it was not wild, it was waiting. Luma stood beside Ethan, her small hand gripping his sleeve. But her posture had changed. She was still afraid. But she was not running anymore. She was standing. Ethan noticed it immediately. "You feel it too, don't you?" he said quietly. Luma looked up at him, her glowing eyes steady for the first time since the attack began. "No run," she said softly. Ethan gave a small nod. "Yeah. No running." Outside the room, the situation was getting worse. "Shields at 20%, a technician shouted. "We can't hold them much longer." The commander stood still, watching the readings, then made a hard decision. "All units fall back to inner sectors," he ordered, "and prepare evacuation protocols." A young officer stepped forward. "Sir, what about the girl?" The commander paused for a moment, then said quietly, "She may be the only thing that can stop them." Inside the containment room, the doors suddenly unlocked with a loud click. Ethan turned instantly, pulling Luma slightly behind him. A group of armed soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. "Stand down," one of them shouted. Ethan stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Put those down, you're scaring her." "That's the point," another soldier said nervously. "We've been ordered to move her." Luma's grip tightened again. Her breathing became faster. The energy in the room began to rise. Not exploding, but building, controlled. Different from before, Ethan raised his hand toward the soldiers. "Stop," he said firmly. "She's not a threat unless you make her one." The soldiers hesitated, unsure. Then the commander's voice came through their coms. "Hold your position." Everyone froze. "Send the human and the girl to the central deck," the commander continued. "We are out of time." The soldiers slowly lowered their weapons. Ethan looked down at Luma. "Looks like we're going for a walk," he said softly. She did not respond with words, but she did not resist either. She stayed close to him as they moved out of the room for the first time together. The hallway outside was chaos, smoke in the air, sparks falling from broken panels, distant sounds of impact shaking the walls. Luma looked around quickly, her eyes wide. "Bad," she whispered. "Yeah," Ethan replied. "But we're going to fix it." As they moved through the station, people stopped and stared, some in fear, some in disbelief. The girl everyone called untouchable was walking freely, right beside a human, and nothing was happening. When they reached the central deck, the large viewing window showed the battle outside. Dark alien ships surrounding the station, firing again and again. The shields flickered weakly, close to breaking. The commander turned as they entered, his eyes going straight to Luma. "This is our last chance," he said. Ethan stepped forward. "You want her to fight them. I want her to stop them," the commander replied. "She is the only one who can match their energy." Ethan shook his head slightly. "She's not a weapon." "No," the commander said. "But she is the only one who can save everyone here." Silence filled the room for a moment. All eyes turned to Luma. She looked small standing there, surrounded by people, machines, and fear. But then she looked up at Ethan. "Help," she asked softly. Ethan knelt down in front of her, meeting her eyes. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do," he said. "But if you choose to help, I'll be right here with you." Luma stared at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Together." Ethan smiled slightly. "Yeah. Together." The commander gave a signal, and the central platform began to open, revealing a direct energy channel to space. A risky system, never meant for something like this. "Once she connects, there's no turning back," a scientist warned. Ethan stood beside her, not stepping away, not even for a second. Luma closed her eyes slowly. The air around her began to glow. Soft at first, then brighter. Energy started to rise from her body, not wild, not broken, but controlled, steady. It spread outward, filling the room with light, then pushing beyond, into the open channel, into space itself. Outside, the enemy ships reacted instantly, their weapons charging faster, but something was different now. Luma's energy was not chaotic like before. It was focused, guided, because she was not alone anymore. Ethan placed his hand gently over hers. "I'm here," he said quietly. And in that moment, the energy surged forward. Not as a weapon of fear, but as a shield, a massive wave of light expanding outward from the station, blocking the incoming fire, holding the line. Inside the control room, no one spoke. They were watching something they had never seen before. Not destruction, not power used for control, but power shaped by trust and out in space. For the first time since the battle began, the enemy ships. The light slowly faded, not suddenly, not violently, but gently, like a storm finally coming to rest outside the station. The massive wave of energy still shimmered in space, holding strong like a shield made of pure light. The enemy ships had stopped their attack. For the first time, there was silence. Inside the central deck, no one moved. Everyone was watching Luma. The small alien girl standing at the center of it all, her body was glowing softly. But the power around her was no longer wild or dangerous. It was calm, controlled, alive but peaceful. Ethan stood beside her, still holding her hand. He could feel the energy too. But it did not hurt, it felt warm, like something protective. "You did it," he said quietly. Luma opened her eyes slowly. The bright glow inside them had softened, turning into a gentle light. "Stop them," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Yeah. You stopped them." Outside, the dark alien ships remained still, their glowing cores dimmer now, as if they were unsure what to do next. Inside the control room, the commander finally spoke. "Status." A technician checked the systems quickly. "Shield stabilizing. Damage contained." "We're still operational," another added. "The enemy fleet has stopped firing." There was a pause. Then one simple question. "Are they retreating?" Before anyone could answer, the main screen changed again. The same alien figure appeared. But this time, something was different. Its form was less stable, flickering slightly, like even it was affected by what had just happened. "You have changed the core," it said slowly. Its voice no longer sounded fully in control. The commander stepped forward, calm but firm. "She is not your core," he said. "She is under our protection." The alien figure remained silent for a moment, then spoke again. "She is not meant to be free. She is meant to serve." Inside the room, Luma tightened her grip on Ethan's hand. But she did not panic this time. She looked at the screen, at the figure that once represented fear, and something inside her shifted. Not fear anymore, not pain, but strength. "No," she said softly. The single word echoed through the quiet room. The alien figure froze. "No, serve." Luma continued, her voice still small but steady. "Free." Ethan felt a slight smile form on his face. "That's right," he said quietly. "You're free, outside." The glowing shield pulsed once, brighter than before, and the enemy ships reacted instantly. Their formation broke, their weapons powering down completely. Inside the control room, someone spoke in disbelief. "They're pulling back. It's working," on the screen. The alien figure flickered again, then slowly faded away. Its final words barely audible. "This is not over." The connection cut, and just like that, the fleet began to retreat, disappearing into deep space. The battle was over. But the silence that followed felt even more powerful. Inside the station, people slowly began to move again. Some sat down in relief, some simply stared, still trying to understand what they had just seen. The commander looked at Luma, then at Ethan, for a long moment. He said nothing, then finally, "Stand down all emergency protocols," he ordered. "And prepare medical and recovery teams," he paused. Then added, "And update her status." No one asked what he meant, because everyone already knew, inside the central deck. Luma's energy continued to fade, her body growing weaker after everything she had done. She swayed slightly. Ethan caught her immediately, supporting her gently. "Hey." "Easy," he said. Her eyes slowly looked up at him. "Stay?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded without hesitation. "I'm not going anywhere." That was enough. Her body relaxed completely, the last glow around her fading into nothing. And she rested against him. Not in fear, not in pain, but in peace. Days later, the station was quieter again. Repairs were ongoing, systems were being rebuilt. But something had changed. Not just in the station, but in the people. Luma was no longer locked away, no more cold rooms, no more isolation. Instead, she was given a small living space. Simple but warm, and she was never alone anymore. Ethan stood by the doorway, watching as she carefully explored the room, touching things with quiet curiosity, no fear, no energy bursts. Just a child learning her new world. She turned to him, her glowing eyes soft and calm. "Home?" she asked. Ethan smiled. "Yeah," he said. "This is home." She repeated the word slowly, like it was something precious. "Home." And for the first time, a small, real smile appeared on her face. Not forced, not uncertain, but true, because after everything she had been through, after all the fear, the pain, the running, she had finally found something she never had before. Not a place, not power, but a person. And in that moment, the girl no one could touch had finally found someone she could trust.